Honeybee eggs are oblong in shape and whitish in color, measuring around 1.5 millimeters in length and 0.4 millimeters in width. During beekeeping inspections, the eggs can be difficult to see with the naked eye unless you've got some sort of light shining through the frames. In this instance, these are all frozen frames and lighting is not an issue. To lay an egg, the queen bee first feels for the cell with her forelegs to determine what caste this bee will be. If the cell is relatively small, it is going to be a worker bee, and the queen also releases some stored sperm from her spermatheca to fertilize the ovum as it travels down her reproductive tract. The now fertilized egg is released into the center of the cell where it remains upright, anchored by the queen's egg glue proteins. Embryonic development is when the undifferentiated clump of cells inside the egg are turned into a structured and specialized larval shape. This is achieved through complex gene cascades, with examples being the Wnt, Hox, Notch, and DPP families. Much of what we know about insect embryonic development comes from the fruit fly studies on Drosophila melanogaster, I probably said that wrong, and those interested should seek such references. Honeybees have a few variations from the fruit fly model, such as missing the bicoid gene, which is necessary for fruit fly spatial orientation, or having a greater use of genes like caudal, cripple, and giant in the abdomen, thorax, and head development, respectively. At the completion of the egg stage, the shell dissolves, leaving behind the larva at the bottom of the cell. This is unlike other insects and reptiles, where the young emerge by cracking the shell open. The worker bee's larval stage lasts around 7 days and is summarized as a molting and rapid growth. In this stage, the larvae produce brood pheromones that signal hunger to the nurse bees, which is how they get fed. Molting is important as the insect endoskeleton is rigid and does not expand as our bones do. The larva sheds its exoskeletons and reforms a larger one, which also provides it with an opportunity to change its structure. Some definitions. The period between molts is termed instar. So, first instar larva begins at hatching, the second instar larva begins after its first molt, and the third instar from the second molt, and so on. The exoskeleton is the entire outer body of an insect, whereas the cuticle is just this outermost layer, and this outermost layer itself contains 4 layers. Molting occurs in the cuticle. Regardless of caste, honeybees have 5 instars and 6 molts, depending on the literature cited. It is in the last 2 molts that caste-based differentiation is visible. The larva grows rapidly during the 5th instar, and afterwards the cell is stocked with food and capped by the nurse bees. After capping, the larva completes its final shedding of the cuticle and begins forming the first pupal structure, which is also termed the pre-pupal stage in literature. To do this, the larva moves into an upright position and begins to line its cell with a thin cocoon from silk produced by its salivary glands. For a worker bee, the pupal stage occurs over the next 12 days in regions containing previously undifferentiated cells, termed imaginal discs. In other words, there are clumps of cells on the pupa that get activated and begin forming adult structures like the legs and wings. The science behind this process is ongoing, as there are multiple rearrangements of an internal anatomy. Think about it. How do you go from this worm into a bee? Many steps involved. If I were to break it down by body region, it would be like so. In the abdomen, there is degradation and reformation of the larval intestine and heart tubes, rebuilding them from the remaining undifferentiated cells. In the head, there is development of the optic, or vision, and antennal lobes, as well as the fusion of the ganglia, which are the nerve bundles in their ventral nerve cord. All over the pupa's body is the emergence of pigmentation, turning the body from the larval stage's milky white into the black of the adult bees. Yes, the bees' skin is black in color. It's the hairs that give them that yellow golden appearance. The eyes are the first to gain color, as many a beekeeper will tell you after they've uncapped all the brood cells. Hardening and coloration of the cuticle is termed the pharate or hidden stage. The bee now sheds her pupal cuticle and begins emerging from the cell. As these processes occur simultaneously, parts of the cuticle remain attached to the emerging bee. This early exit, as opposed to eclosing after the cuticle hardens, means that her exoskeleton is still soft. For the first few days of life, she is relegated to cleaning duties as she cannot fly or sting, and you can identify her by her hairier body and lighter coloration compared to that of her nestmates. At the adult stage, the honeybee worker's life cycle is largely complete. The worker bees who live in a healthy colony normally cannot lay eggs and reproduce, so they spend the rest of their lives in various age-based duties around the hive. As mentioned previously, Around ages 1 to 3, the worker bee cleans cells to prepare them for brood rearing or resource storage. She cannot fly or sting yet, as her cuticle is still soft. At 3 to 10 days of age, she is a nurse bee who feeds larvae and produces worker or royal jelly. Some nurses may become part of the Queen's retinue at ages 7 to 12 days, feeding and caring for Her Majesty. Around 12 days old, the worker bee's wax gland mature, and they become wax builders, producers, and repairers for the comb. Bees not involved in comb building processes process incoming nectar and pollen from returning foragers, both for storage and bee bread production. The more mature and physically capable middle-aged bees become hive entrance guards. At 22 days and above, the worker bee spends her remaining life as a forager, obtaining nectar, pollen, water, or propolis, depending on the hive needs. This stage can last for a few weeks during the spring and summer, and there's an average lifespan of 42 days for the worker, which means 20 days of foraging. All of the things mentioned above are variable, and they're influenced by things like nutrition, hormones, presence of pests and diseases, and these topics are beyond the scope of this video. Tens of thousands of bees can live in a single hive, well over 50,000 in the peak season, most of which are workers, and there are a few hundred drones and one queen. I conclude this video with the summary table. Pause and review, as it also has information on the queen and drones.